like setting it up so that he could like say to me, well, why don't you go ahead and become a Muslim? He didn't. He said, why don't you go talk to your Lord? Talk to him. This is between you and him. Because you see, the word Islam is exactly that. It's describing the relationship between two entities. The word Islam, the etymology of the word is this. It comes from the root sin lam mim. And from that, this word is pulled out. It's a verb, it's action. It means the surrender, obedience, the submission, sincerity to a greater authority, the way the word is constructed, and in peace. All of that's in this word. So you see immediately from this, when there's submission, you have to have a minimum of two entities. One submitting to the other. So you're describing a relationship of a dominant over a subject, and the one who is subjugated to the one above. This is what you're describing. And it means to do the will of the one in authority. This is from the word itself. We're not talking about religion, we're talking about the word. Islam teaches us that the religion Islam is teaching that there's only one God. So if you say Islam and imply that, the next thing you're saying is then all the authority, all the worship, dedication, and so on is only for him. No other gods beside God. This is a very beautiful way to describe the first commandment in the book of Exodus, chapter 20, when it talks about, thou shalt not have any other gods beside me. It also describes the same commandment which you find in the book of Deuteronomy in chapter 5. It also describes the commandment that Jesus speaks about in Mark 12:29, when they said, what is the greatest commandment? And he said, it is to know, O Israel, that the Lord your God is one Lord, and you have to love him with all your heart and all your mind and all your strength. To understand that and to put it into practice is no different than what Islam is calling for. But it means that you don't relax commandments according to your desires. It means that you accept even if you don't know why. To give you a little understanding on that, in the Old Testament, it talks very clearly about forbidding the consumption of lahm khanzir, the flesh of the pig. The same thing that it says in the Quran. There's no difference. Both are forbidding eating this. But in modern times, I remember in the 1950s, they were publishing some books about this subject and talking about that, look, back then, this is how it starts out, back then, back when, it doesn't even say, this is back then, they didn't have refrigerators. So this meat would go bad real easy. And they talked about some of the diseases that come from eating this meat. But nowadays, you know, we have refrigeration, and this animal can be slaughtered, it can be consumed, there's not a problem. That was the 1950s. In the 1960s, I remember they had some real serious issues about it, saying that, well, even though we refrigerated this animal, we still found things that when you heated the meat back up, still causes diseases, still causes this and that, and so they're going to start treating the meat with a chemical. And then 1970s, okay, that doesn't work, we've got a new problem with this meat, and it's still today. You've got people talking about the problems of eating and consuming pork, the so-called other white meat. As a Muslim, you don't worry about the why. You just say it's a commandment, so you don't do it. That's the point. It's a clear point. And if somebody said, well, why? I don't understand why. So does this mean before you obey a commandment, you have to know why? Do you? Because if this is your attitude, then what does it mean when you look at the commandments and it says, thou shalt not bear false witness? Why? I'll lie if I want to. Show me why. It could be good, you know. I could tell somebody this and that and make a lot of money and use the money for a good purpose. Well, yeah, if you think about it like that, you just go ahead and rob a bank and build a nice orphanage. Huh? And by the way, it also says, don't steal. That's what it says, don't steal. Why? Maybe I could steal, like, from the rich and give to the poor. Robin Hood did it. By the way, in a Muslim country, he'd only have one arm. You want to talk about that? Was it the 10 suggestions or the 10 commandments? Because if you're going to sit there and analyze each thing and say that, you know what, I don't see how that's relative to me, I don't have to do it. Listen, I'm talking about Muslims coming to me and say, I don't see why we have to do this or that. Well, it doesn't make sense today. We live in a modern world. We're not riding camels. That's one of the favorite things I like to say. Am I right? You heard about that, right? Some of the girls tell you that? Why do we have to wear a hijab today? That's back then, you know, when they had the wind blowing and everything and you had to come, but no, we don't have that today. Wait a minute, Chicago's a windy city, isn't it? I'll ask you a question. What was the first sin of the human beings? Will somebody tell me? The first sin, what was it? Remember? I'm asking Jewish, Christian, Muslim. We got the exact same story. In case you didn't know it, the first man is Adam in all three religions. Created by God from dirt. Eve being created from bones. No different story. Even the pronunciation of Adam is Adam. The difference is the way you say the name of Eve, it's Hawa. But big deal, it's the same story. God puts them in the Garden of Eden, in Arabic called Aden, but who cares? And they're in the paradise, and they can have anything they want. Anything, eat from anything, except what? One tree. One tree, don't eat the fruit of that tree. Is that right? Now why? Well, I don't see why. What's wrong with that fruit? I mean, it looks nice, tastes nice, smells nice. Nobody got sick. Why can't we eat it? It's the exact same thing. The point is, you were told not to do it. But you did it. And so I don't see the effect of it. The effect is you didn't obey. How can you say that you are a true believer when it's demonstrated to you right here by your own actions you didn't comply? What is a Muslim? What is a Muslim? A Muslim in Arabic, if you knew Arabic and understood it, you wouldn't have this problem. You wouldn't say the silly things you do about Muslims. Because if you agreed with the first word that I said, Islam, makes sense. Islam, do what God wants you to do, okay? In English, we use ER after a verb to indicate the one who's performing the action. Walk, walker, talk, talker, think, thinker, stink, stinker. I'm not getting carried away. No, you get the idea. In Arabic, you use the prefix of mu before the verb to indicate the one performing the action. Got me? Okay. I'll go through some motions. I'm not trying to give you a lesson in Arabic, but just show you how it works. Worshipping is called salah, so salli. Salli, salli, musalli. Got it? Musalli. The one doing the action. Adhan. Adhan. The one calling it, mu'adhan. Mu'adhan. Traveling. Arabic, safar. The one doing it, musafar. Get it yet? Somebody is doing what God wants them to do. Islam becomes a Muslim. Ah. See how easy that was? Do you believe in God? Yes. You want to do what God wants you to do? Yes. What are you? No. It happened to me. After I became Muslim, I went back down the Texas Valley. That's where I used to do a lot of preaching. We used to go across the border and try to convert the Catholics over to Protestant. So I'm down there, and there was a real old lady, sweet as she could be. She was a sweetheart, in her 80s. And she saw me, she looked at me, she said, "Child, is that you?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." "Why are you wearing a dress? And how come you growing a beard? What happened to you?"